Oh, hi. As some of you may already know, my name is Chris, and a few years back, I reviewed Destroy All Humans Path of the Furon, and it went on to become my most hated video to date. And honestly, I understand why. I was a dumb kid who didn't quite understand how to voice a valid opinion without being remarkably patronizing. As I watch the video today, I see myself conveying opinions that I still have, by the way, in a very poor way. I say things like, multiplayer makes a good game better, which of course isn't true at all. In fact, some games have multiplayer modes that detract from the overall experience. First, I think it's important to understand what I actually meant versus what I actually said, which is very different considering I was a stupid 14-year-old kid trying to pump out a video really quickly. Let's start with the first thing I say that is objectively stupid. The main problem with this game is its online multiplayer. There is none. Yeah, I said that. And it's objectively wrong, but why did I say it? Because it was promised. If a studio promises something in a game, we are completely in the right to criticize it if the promise doesn't come to fruition. I literally have the article in person. On page 34 of the July 2008 issue of the official Xbox magazine, Destroy All Humans Path of the Furon, live/multiplayer yes. This means multiplayer. Sure, you could always say, well, it says live/multiplayer and not live multiplayer, but understand that there are other games in here that specifically identify that kind of thing. On page 72 of the same issue, you can see LEGO Indiana Jones advertising 2 on the same console only, which is exactly what Destroy All Humans Path of the Furon ended up being. Considering the fact that they chose not to specify, this clearly means multiplayer. Online multiplayer. Not only that, but keep in mind that I read this thing in 2008, a time where every retail release that promised multiplayer was by definition online. I don't know about you, but when I think multiplayer, I think of multiple players, and nowadays I just assume online. Even arcade games were mostly online compatible. Exclusively local multiplayer just didn't even seem like a decision that anyone would make. It didn't even occur to me. Why would that be my expectation for a next generation game in one of my favorite franchises? And not even only that, but they made the already limited multiplayer even worse than previous installments by removing the option to play a co-op story. There's no co-op. Just a bunch of poorly constructed competitive multiplayer minigames with a maximum of 2 players on the same console. Think about that. An open-world sandbox game releases in 2008 after having been delayed quite a few times already, and they remove a co-op feature that was in the previous installments. This game came out after Grand Theft Auto 4. There's no reason why they couldn't get a decent multiplayer working here. Despite all that rationalization, the main problem of the game wasn't the lack of online multiplayer. That's objectively wrong, and I see why people hated me for saying it. The game is, however, broken and at times an unplayable mess. The atmosphere is virtually non-existent, the game is buggy to the point where it feels like a student project, the gameplay didn't do much to improve on any of the previous titles, there's just a host of horrible things here. The script is fun, the story is pretty solid, though at times awkwardly fragmented and out of place, and the areas are pretty fun regardless, but it all gets marred by the fact that the game is beyond broken. Let's go on to the next point I made that got me the most flack. I basically argued that multiplayer makes a good game better, and that in order to advance and be successful in the industry, multiplayer needed to be something that was included. That argument is pretty incorrect, and obviously disproven by the success of the BioShock series and games like Dishonored. I do, however, remember what I meant, and now that I have the words to articulate what this stupid kid is trying to say, let me elaborate. My argument was, if you're going to make a game, the single player has to stand out on its own. It needs to be a fun story, and the gameplay needs to be fun when you're playing by yourself. If you can't achieve this, if the single player story can't stand on its own, then it needs to have a reason to come back to it, and multiplayer is the quickest and most obvious solution to this problem. Take Bionic Commando, for instance. This game had the laziest single-player campaign I've ever had the pleasure of playing, but the multiplayer is actually one of my favorite multiplayer modes in all of modern gaming. I'm dead serious. Playing with your friends, even if the game is mediocre, is always more fun. Halo 3 was going to be given a perfect score by many review outlets, but got bumped down a notch because most reviewers found the single player to be fairly dull. While I disagree with that assessment, it's obvious that the multiplayer was the thing that made the game strong, and it made up for all the shortcomings of the single-player campaign. Though there are games like BioShock that prove that multiplayer can diminish games, I've seen far many more examples to the contrary. Grand Theft Auto is made infinitely more replayable now that you can explore the game with your friends. Of course, design is more complicated than that. You can't just add another player and have a great game. I totally understand that. You'll need to design around it, make the multiplayer robust. The problem is, Destroy All Humans Path of the Furon did none of that. They downgraded the barely existent multiplayer in the first place, made a broken single player, and created an engine that freezes, crashes, and straight up stops working if you find yourself having too much fun. The AI is horrendous, the audio in some places doesn't even load properly, and the art style is all over the place. It's just objectively a bad game, and again, that's speaking objectively. Pandemic, the wickedly talented studio behind the originals, were shut down by EA, so the development of this game got handed down to Sandblast Games. Google them. Go ahead, Google them, I dare you. Let me know what you find. I'll wait. Did you Google them yet? Yeah, exactly. This is exactly why I thought Halo 4 was a great game. A new studio taking on a beloved franchise could be terrible news, as it was for Destroy All Humans, but comparatively, 343 Industries knocked it out of the park. Of course, there are some issues I have with that game, but that's a topic for another time. One last opinion that is actually the only opinion of mine that's changed since then. I said that co-op doesn't count as multiplayer. I actually very much disagree with that idea entirely now, and I'm not sure I ever agreed with that idea. I'm not sure why I said it in the first place. Co-op is very valuable, and I'm very, very sad that it's actually becoming less frequent in the industry nowadays. But I guess there's not much else to say. Was that a bad video? Yeah, it certainly was. It was made by a 14-year-old kid who sought every opportunity he could to voice his anger at a broken promise in one video. I hope this video cleared some stuff up, as well as giving you some insight into how I see video games and the ideas of game design in general. If you like these kind of breakdowns, let me know if you'd like to see more of them. I enjoy talking as if I'm important and actually have stuff to say, so I kinda like doing this. In the meantime, keep it clean, and don't buy Path of the Furon. Just don't, seriously. Oh no, come back.